Welcome back. In this video, I want to talk about the AP exam, and in particular, I want to talk about some of the things that we want to start practicing throughout the year in order to prepare ourselves for the AP exam. Now, the AP exam is broken up into two parts. There's the multiple choice and the free response. Each part is equal weight, so 50% of your grade, or 50% of your score will come from the multiple choice, and 50% of your score will come from the free response. The multiple choice consists of 70 questions, and you'll have 90 minutes to answer the questions. Now here's the real important part. There is no equation sheet and no calculator allowed on the multiple choice part of the exam. So you're going to have to figure out how to start remembering some of these equations, and you're also going to have to figure out how to start doing calculations in your head. And that's what we're going to talk about in this video right here. The other part of the exam is the free response section. This consists of 6 or 7 kind of longer questions. You'll have 90 minutes to answer these. Now the nice thing about this section is that you will be allowed to use an equation sheet, and you'll also be allowed to use calculators. So, what are the tricks that we can use on the multiple choice section to help us do our calculations? The biggest thing you can do is approximate. So anytime you have any number, just round it to the nearest whole number. Other things that we can use is we can use scientific notation and exponential rules. Okay? So I'll go over those. Other things we can do is simplify your expressions before plugging numbers into it. It's a very important thing. And then also just knowing your multiplication tables and powers of 2. Powers of 2 maybe not so important, but definitely knowing your multiplication tables is a very important thing. So just rounding. So if I have something like pi, which is 3.14159 or whatever it is, right, we can say this is just approximately 3. E, Euler's number, again, approximately 3. G, the acceleration due to gravity, it's approximately 10 meters per second squared. Big G, the acceleration due to gravity, the universal acceleration due to gravity. Again, just 7 times 10 to the minus 11 Newton meters squared per kilogram squared. Just round every one of these numbers to the nearest whole number, okay? Don't try to keep all of these digits. Again, remember, it's a multiple choice portion of the exam. You don't have to get the number exactly, you just have to get close enough that you can eliminate the wrong answers and identify which answer is correct. So let's go ahead and consider a simple example. We're asked to approximate this value here. So again, we'll just round. 8.3, we'll round that to 8. Pi, we round that to 3. Denominator here, we'll round that to 4. So this is just going to be equal to 6. The other thing we can use are exponential rules. So this is where scientific notation really comes in handy, okay? So remember, scientific notation, this is where you use, if I have something like, in the previous slide, big G, 6.67 times 10 to the minus 11, this is where you use the 10 to the minus or plus whatever to describe the magnitude of the number. So remember, if you have two numbers like, say, 10 raised to the A times 10 raised to the B, this is equal to 10 raised to the A plus B. So anytime you add two exponents which have the same base, you just get the exponent with the sum of the two exponents. Similarly, if you had, say, something like 1 divided by 10 raised to the A, this is 10 raised to the minus A. Combining these first two results, we can see that if I had 10 raised to the A power divided by 10 raised to the B, this is 10 raised to the A minus B. And lastly, if you had, say, 10 raised to the A cubed, this is 10 raised to the 3A power. So these are all very useful identities that you should definitely know for the AP exam. So this example just asks us to approximate this thing here. So again, we'll round all of these numbers. So this is approximately 2 times 10 to the 6th. This is 4 times 10 to the 2nd power. And this is going to be 2 times 10 to the 8th power. So again, we're just going to, those two cancel. We have 1/4, because we have a 4 there. And then our exponents. So we've got 6 in the numerator, we've got 2 in the denominator, and 8 in the denominator. Okay? So this is 6 minus 2 minus 8. 6 minus 2 minus 8. It's going to be minus 4. Right? So this is 1/4 times 10 to the minus 4 power, or 2.5 times 10 to the minus 5, because this is, of course, 0.25. So again, we can very, very quickly do this calculation. So this isn't exactly 2.5 times 10 to the minus 5, but it's going to be pretty close. It's going to get us close enough that we can identify which answer in the multiple choice test is correct. Now, the other useful trick that we can use is simplifying expressions before plugging numbers into it. So I'll give you a really simple example. This is an equation that shows up over and over again in our class. We'll talk about this when we talk about circuits. It's also going to come up later when we talk about lenses. And this is, 1 over A is equal to 1 over B plus 1 over C. I think this may be on the next slide. All right. So the question is, what is A if I try to solve for A? So looking at this, right, if I'm trying to solve for A, what I should do is multiply both sides by A. So if I take A times this and take A and multiply it on this side, okay, over here on the left I have 1 is equal to, over here I have A times 1 over B plus 1 over C. And now if I divide off all of this in parentheses, I get A is equal to 1 divided by 1 over B plus 1 over C. And at this point I've solved for A. I could plug in B equals 3, I could plug in C equals 6, and I could try to solve for this. But it's going to be pretty difficult for me to do that calculation in my head. So a good idea, as always, is just simplify the expression a little bit further before plugging numbers into it. So here, if I wanted to simplify this, what I could do is I could give it a common denominator. Okay, so to do that, again, I multiply this side by C over C, I multiply this number by B over B, so I get C plus B divided by B times C. And now I have 1 divided by a fraction. Remember, when you have a fraction in the denominator, you can move it to the numerator by just flipping the fraction. So we have B times C divided by B plus C. So here we've got 3 times 6 divided by 3 plus 6. This is 18 divided by 9, which is simply 2. So you can see back here, if we plugged the numbers 3 and 6 into this, it would not have been very obvious that this is going to equal 2. It probably would have been more work than what we did to get to this. So a lot of times, it's just going to be a lot easier to simplify your expressions before plugging numbers into them. Now, one of the last things to do is just know your multiplication tables. You're going to have to multiply numbers a lot on the AP exam. If you know your multiplication tables, it's going to help out a lot. Another useful trick, it's not as important, is just knowing powers of 2. If we look at this, we can already see that there are 3 powers of 2 that are between 0 and 10. So if you always round to whole numbers, there's a pretty good chance you'll wind up with a power of 2. The nice thing about powers of 2 is that 2 raised to the 10th power is approximately equal to 10 raised to the 3rd power. So for example, if I had, say, 2 raised to the 100th power, I can say that this is 2 raised to the 10th power raised to the 10th power, which is approximately 10 raised to the 3rd power raised to the 10th power, which is 10 raised to the 30th power. So that's just a useful trick. I don't think it's going to come up very often on the AP exam, but it is still a pretty neat trick. So I think at this point I'll just end the video, and I think in the next video we're going to start talking about vectors.